Welcome back to PicklePatter, the podcast where we help you up your pickleball game one dink at a time.
One dink at a time.
And we're about to dive into a topic that I think a lot of you out there can relate to, especially if you've ever felt like that surge of panic when someone across the net winds up for a shot and it sounds like a sonic boom.
Oh yeah, we're talking about those human tennis cannons.
Yes.
The pickleball bangers. You know, the ones who make you consider investing in a bulletproof vest for your next match.
I'm Mark, pickleball's self-proclaimed defense expert, though bangers might say otherwise.
And I'm Raven Master of dodging fast shots sometimes by hiding behind Mark.
Well, today we're going to unpack some serious strategies for dealing with those bangers. You shared some articles and personal notes on this, and I have to say there's some really good stuff in here.
Absolutely. We're going to break it down into bite-sized pieces so you can walk away with practical tips that will help you not just survive against bangers, but actually outsmart them.
So let's start by really defining what makes a banger a banger. It's not just about raw power, is it? I mean, I've seen some players who hit hard, but they're not necessarily bangers.
That's a great point. A true banger isn't just hitting hard. They're strategically using that power to dominate the game.
Right.
They're often wielding those high-tech paddles that could probably launch a satellite into orbit.
And they're not afraid to use them.
Oh, no.
The thing about bangers is they can completely change the pace of a game.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly you're in this whirlwind of fast rallies where you barely have time to blink, let alone react.
You're absolutely right. And let's be honest, that kind of pace can lead to some pretty hilarious moments on the court.
Oh, I bet.
I once tried to return a shot from a banger who must have had rocket fuel in his paddle.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up doing this weird Matrix-style backbend that sent my own paddle flying into the next court.
Oh, I feel that. I remember one time I was so focused on bracing for a banger smash that I completely forgot to actually hit the ball.
Oh, no.
This has whizzed past me while I was standing there like a deer in headlights.
Oh, those moments are definitely memorable, but we want to help you avoid them as much as possible.
Yeah.
One of the first things that all of our sources emphasize is the importance of staying calm and focused.
Yes.
When you're up against a banger, don't let their power psych you out.
Right, because if you start panicking, you're playing right into their hands.
Exactly.
They want you to be flustered and make mistakes.
Yeah.
So how do we stay cool under that kind of pressure? Any practical tips from the experts?
One technique that stood out to me is something called box breathing.
Okay.
It's a simple breathing exercise that you can do before each point. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4.
Okay.
It's just a quick way to slow down your heart rate and center yourself.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
I've also heard that visualizing yourself successfully handling a banger shot can be really helpful.
Yes.
It's almost like training your brain to react confidently.
Definitely, our minds are incredibly powerful. And if you can visualize yourself staying calm and making a great return, your body is more likely to follow suit.
Now, beyond the mental game, let's talk about actual on-court strategies.
Okay.
What's the first thing we need to do when facing a banger, tactically speaking?
Well, before you even think about returning a shot, you have to think about your positioning.
Okay.
If you're standing too far back, you're giving the banger a huge advantage.
Right.
They have all the time and space they need to wind up and unleash those killer shots.
It's like being a goalie in soccer who's decided to take a nap at the back of the net. You're just asking for trouble.
Exactly. So one of the most important things you can do is stay close to the baseline.
Okay.
This allows you to react quicker and cut off those angles, limiting the banger's options.
So it's not just about backing up and trying to withstand the barrage.
Right.
It's about actively taking control of the court and putting pressure back on them.
Absolutely. And a big part of that is watching their body language.
Okay.
Pay attention to their paddle position and their weight shifts.
Right.
Those are your clues as to where that powerful shot is headed. It's like reading a poker player's tell, except instead of chips, you're betting on your ability to return a screaming pickleball.
All right, so we're staying calm, we're positioned strategically, and we're reading the banger, like a book. What about actually handling those fast returns? What do our sources recommend?
One of the most consistent pieces of advice I see is to focus on hitting deep returns.
Okay.
The idea is to push the banger back, force them to work harder, and potentially disrupt their rhythm.
Right, because if they're constantly on the attack, they're in their comfort zone. We want to shake things up a bit.
Exactly. And hitting deep doesn't necessarily mean hitting hard. In fact, using topspin can be incredibly effective.
Okay.
You can hit a deep shot with good pace that forces the banger back without having to match their power.
Now, explain this topspin thing to me like I'm 5 years old, because my topspin attempts usually end up with the ball sailing over the fence.
Imagine you're brushing up and over the ball as you hit it, kind of like you're trying to put a little extra spin on a frisbee. This makes the ball rotate forward as it travels, which causes it to dip down faster and bounce higher.
Got it.
It's a way to control the ball's trajectory and make it harder for the banger to predict where it's going.
Interesting. So it's not about brute force. It's about finesse and placement.
Yeah.
I like that. Anything else about hitting deep returns?
Another important factor is consistency. You don't want to give the banger any easy opportunities to attack. If you're constantly popping the ball up, they're going to feast on those short, weak returns.
This is about making them earn every point, even if they're hitting those monstrous shots.
Right.
I'm starting to feel more confident already, and we've only just scratched the surface of our deep dive. Where do we go from here?
Well, we've talked about the mental game and the importance of positioning, but now it's time to get a little sneaky, a little strategic. Let's talk about how to actually turn defense into offense and start dictating the game against those bangers.
Okay, I'm intrigued. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll delve into some truly surprising tactics that can turn the tables on even the most intimidating bangers. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to PicklePatter. Before the break, we were talking about how to handle those human tennis cannons, the pickleball bangers.
We've laid the groundwork with mental strategies and positioning, but now I'm ready for the really good stuff. How do we go beyond simply defending and start taking control of the game?
That's where things get really interesting. One of the most effective ways to flip the script on a banger is to use their momentum against them.
Okay.
They're expecting you to back up and brace for those power shots. So what do? You surprise them with something completely unexpected?
Okay, I love where this has gone. Hit me with the unexpected.
Think soft game.
Oh, go.
Sinks and drop shots. Those delicate little shots that land softly in the kitchen can completely disrupt a banger's rhythm.
It's like that moment in a kung fu movie where the master redirects the opponent's force instead of meeting it head on. Except instead of flying kicks, we're talking about whisper quiet dinks.
Exactly. A banger is primed to smash to attack. They're not expecting you to take the pace down to force them to come forward and play a finesse game. It can completely throw them off balance.
I can imagine the look on their face when that perfectly placed dink just plops over the net and they're scrambling to get to it.
It's a beautiful sight, but of course it's not just about randomly throwing in a dink here and there.
Right.
You have to be strategic about it.
Yeah.
One tip that stood out on our research is to use dinks to move the banger around the court.
Okay.
If they're camped out on one side, dink to the opposite corner and make them run.
Ooh. I like that it's like playing chess with the court, using our shots to manipulate their positioning.
And don't be afraid to mix up the height and depth of your dinks.
Right.
Keep them guessing and keep them on their toes.
Our sources also mentioned drop shots as another effective weapon against bangers. Are those basically just super short dinks?
They are similar, but a drop shot is more intentional. It's a shot that you hit with a very soft touch, aiming to land it just over the net so that it dies in the non-volley zone. It's almost impossible to return.
The ultimate sneak attack. Do you have any favorite stories about pulling off a drop shot against a banger?
Oh, absolutely. I was playing against this guy who was known for his atomic smashes.
Oh, wow.
Every shot was like a thunderclap. I was feeling pretty intimidated, but then on a whim, I decided to try a drop shot. He was so focused on winding up for another smash that he completely missed it. He looked so confused, like he couldn't believe someone would dare to play a shot like that against him.
I bet that felt amazing. It's proof that even against the most powerful opponents, a little finesse can go a long way.
Speaking of finesse, let's not forget about the importance of teamwork, especially in doubles.
Right.
Against a banger, communication with your partner is absolutely key.
It's like being a synchronized swimming duo. Instead of perfectly timed leg kicks, we're talking about perfectly timed dinks and volleys.
And the communication part is even more important than in synchronized swimming. I'd say you need to be constantly talking to each other, calling out shots, agreeing on strategies, who's covering the lob, who's taking the middle, who's going to try that sneaky drop shot. You have to be a united front.
A well-coordinated doubles team can be like a wall against a banger. They hit that powerful drive, you and your partner are ready for it, you return it deep, and suddenly they're on the defensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it takes practice to get to that level of synchronicity. And that brings us to the next key element in our deep dive: drills.
Yes, the bread and butter of improvement. Let's talk about specific drills that can help us hone our skills against bangers. We'll be back after a quick, just kidding, we're diving right in. What kind of drills are we talking about?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is the banger simulation. This is pretty straightforward. You basically have a partner who plays like a banger, consistently feeding you hard, fast shots. It's about getting used to that pace, developing those lightning-fast reactions.
So kind of like sparring with a boxing partner. You're not trying to win points. You're trying to sharpen your reflexes and build your confidence under pressure.
Exactly. Another great drill is the cone drill.
Okay.
You place cones or targets on the court, usually in the corners or other spots where a banger might aim their shots. Then your partner feeds you balls, and you have to move quickly to the designated cone and return the shot. It's great for footwork agility and shot placement under pressure.
Okay, I'm already feeling more agile just thinking about it.
Hmm.
What about drills that focus specifically on the soft game, those dinks and drop shots we were talking about?
Gentle volley drills are perfect for that. You and your partner stand close to the net and practice hitting the ball softly back and forth, focusing on control and touch. The key is to keep the ball low and slow. Really work on that finesse element.
So it's about retraining our brains and our muscles to play with more finesse, even when we're facing a player who's all about power. It's a nice reminder that pickleball isn't just about brute strength, it's about strategy, placement, and touch.
Absolutely. And one final point I want to emphasize is the importance of analyzing your own games.
Okay.
Watch recordings of yourself playing against bangers. Pay attention to your positioning, your footwork, your shot selection. Where are your weaknesses? What are you doing well? What could you have done differently?
That's such a valuable tip. It's so easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment that we don't really process what's happening.
Yeah.
Taking that step back and analyzing our game can be a real game changer, literally. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. What's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that playing against a banger doesn't have to be a terrifying experience. It can actually be a fantastic opportunity to elevate your own game.
I like that.
By mastering the mental game, focusing on strategic positioning, and adding those sneaky soft game moves to your arsenal, you can turn the tables and take control of the court.
I love that it's about shifting our mindset from fear to opportunity. Don't just try to survive the banger, thrive against them. But there's one more element we haven't explored yet, and it's a big one, the mental game.
You're right, we touched on it earlier, but we need to dive deeper into those psychological strategies that can give you an edge on the court against any opponent, especially a banger. That's where we'll pick things up in part 3. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to PicklePatter. You know, it's funny, we've been talking about these pickleball bangers, and it's easy to get caught up in the physical side of things, the power, the speed, the drills.
Absolutely, but as we've been saying throughout this deep dive, the mental game is just as important, if not more so, when it comes to facing those human tennis cannons.
It's almost like those bangers have this psychological advantage before the game even starts.
Yes.
You see them across the net, you hear that thwack of their paddle, and suddenly you're doubting yourself.
It's true that intimidation factor is real. But the good news is we can train our minds to be just as strong as our backhands.
Okay.
One of the most important things we can do is reframe our thinking. Instead of seeing a banger as an obstacle, see them as an opportunity.
Okay. I like that. An opportunity for what exactly? To get our butts kicked in a more impressive fashion.
No, not quite. It's an opportunity to test your skills, to push your limits, to rise to the challenge. When you shift your perspective from fear to excitement, you start playing with more confidence and freedom.
So practically speaking, what are some mental techniques we can use to stay in that positive headspace when we're facing someone who could probably knock a hole in the fence with their serve?
One technique that came up a lot in our research is mindfulness.
Okay.
It's about being present in the moment, focusing on your breath, and letting go of those distracting thoughts.
I've heard of mindfulness in a meditation context, but how does it apply to pickleball? Are we supposed to sit in lotus position on the court and chant,
Not exactly, although if that helps you focus, go for it. But seriously, mindfulness on the pickleball court can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths before each point.
Okay.
Focus on your breath, let go of any tension in your body, and just bring your attention to the present moment. It helps you clear your head and stay grounded even when the game is getting intense.
That makes sense. It's about quieting that inner critic that's telling you you're gonna mess up, that you can't handle this banger's power.
Exactly. And speaking of inner critics, another powerful mental tool is positive self-talk.
Okay.
Pay attention to the things you're saying to yourself during a game. Are you putting yourself down? Are you dwelling on mistakes? Or are you encouraging yourself, celebrating small wins, and focusing on the things you're doing well?
I think a lot of us, myself included, are way too hard on ourselves, especially when we're playing against someone who's seems like they're on another level. We get caught up in comparing ourselves and feeling inadequate.
That's why positive self-talk is so important. Replace those negative thoughts with affirmations like, I'm strong, I'm focused, I can do this. It might sound cheesy, but it really can make a difference in your confidence and your performance.
I'm willing to try anything at this point.
Hmm.
What about visualization? I've heard athletes talk about that, but I'm not sure I fully understand how it works.
Visualization is basically using your imagination to create a mental picture of yourself succeeding before a match, or even during a break. Close your eyes and vividly imagine yourself playing against that banger. See yourself moving effortlessly, returning those power shots with ease, and executing your strategies perfectly.
So it's like a mental rehearsal, training your brain to react confidently and successfully in those pressure situations.
Exactly. And the more you practice visualization, the more natural those reactions will become during an actual game. It's like giving your brain a sneak peek of success, which boosts your confidence and reduces anxiety.
I'm starting to see how all these mental techniques work together. Mindfulness helps us stay present. Positive self-talk helps us build our confidence. And visualization prepares us for success.
And when you combine those mental strategies with the physical techniques and tactical approaches we've discussed, you have a recipe for not just surviving against bangers, but actually thriving on the court.
So the next time you find yourself facing a banger, remember this, it's not just about power versus power. It's about strategy finesse and a mind that's as strong as your paddle.
Embrace the challenge. Believe in yourself. And remember, pickleball is a game, and games are meant to be fun.
That's a great note to end on. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, and I hope you've picked up some valuable tips and tricks to handle those bangers. Now, go out there, practice those dinks and drop shots, and remember, the only thing more powerful than a well-placed pickleball is a mind that's ready to win.
And who knows, maybe you'll even become a banger yourself one day.
Until next time, keep those paddles swinging and those smiles beaming.